Welcome to our today's lesson. I'm James Marita, Creoles Boys High School. Subscribe my channel. Click the notification bell. You get notified once I upload a new video. Today we are looking at Form 1 work, and specifically we are looking at the examination questions, that is revision. So the first question, it is testing on introduction. It is testing on the phlegm. That is topic 1, introduction to chemistry. And in this introduction to chemistry, this is a topic 1 in Form 1. The topic involves the use of apparatus, and more emphasis is put on the use of the more emphasis is put on the Bunsen-Burner and the flame it produces. So the skills of drawing and the manipulation of apparatus is usually tested when a candidate or a student is required to draw and experiment setups and also in practicals. So, and that is why now in most cases we have very few questions from this topic, uh, introduction to chemistry. There are only two questions which are set from this topic. That is the flame and the use of the apparatus. So in cases exam, don't waste your time reading about the laboratory rules. There are only two areas which are being tested from this part. That is the flame, the Bunsen-Burner, and the flame it produces, and also the use of the apparatus. So question 1, it was asking in the figure below shows the Bunsen-Burner when in use. You can see on this screen here that we have this is a flame when in use. So a student or a candidate is supposed to name, label all the parts labeled F, M, G, and H. For one to answer this question well, he or she have to understand the two types of the flame. That is the luminous flame and the non-luminous flame, and how they are produced. How many regions does the luminous flame has? How many regions does the non-luminous flame has? Which flame is used for heating purposes? And give the reasons why. And why is the other flame is not used for heating purposes. And some of also the disadvantages of these flames, the advantages of an luminous flame, the advantages of a luminous flame. So, and also the parts of the flame, for example, the base plate, the collar, the air hole, the chimney, and also the jet. So one should be able to understand the parts of the flame, the types of the flame, how they are produced for him or she to answer the questions very well in an examination. So this question was asking the country first part A, name the parts labeled F, M, G, and H. You should know which type of a flame is this. So for instance here, this flame, this one here, this is a non-luminous flame. So being a non-luminous flame, you should understand how many regions does a non-luminous flame has. For instance here, a non-luminous flame normally it has 3 regions compared to luminous flame which has 4 regions. So in this case here now, the outermost part of a non-luminous flame is called a pale blue region. So this is the region here, the outermost part, this part labeled F, it is the pale blue region. There is the second part region here. So this one here, the region here is called the green blue region. So some people say almost green blue region. So this is the green blue region. And we have the innermost part of that flame is called almost colorless region. Those are the three regions of a non-luminous flame. We have the other part which is here. This is normally called this is the chimney. So those are the four parts of the three parts of an non-luminous flame: the pale blue region, the green region, almost colorless region, which is the innermost part of the flame. And of course, you have, as you can see on the screen, you have the chimney here. That is question one. Question number two. Question number two, describe an experiment to show that could confirm that the region labeled G is unsuitable for heating. Describe an experiment to show that this region here, the region labeled G, is unsuitable for heating purposes. That now you are describing an experiment to show that that region is not used for heating purposes, or rather it does not contain the hot carbon particles. So here, when you're describing an experiment, get it very well. Describing an experiment, you need to get the apparatus or the materials used. So you start by identifying the materials or the apparatus which are used to describe that experiment. Then two, give a small procedure to be followed using those apparatus or the materials that you have identified to carry out that experiment. Then finally, give the observation. After carrying out the experiment, what will you observe? But do not give the reasons for the observation. So we have these three important parts. Identify the materials that you use or the apparatus which are being used. Number two, you give a procedure followed by those apparatus that you have identified. And then you give an observation, what is observed at the end of the experiment. That is how you can describe an experiment. So to describe an experiment to show that that region is unsuitable for heating purposes, you need the following materials. Either you would have a manila paper, or you use a wooden splint, or you can use a matchstick. But a matchstick here, it might be inappropriate because it catches fire very fast. So it cannot be used to describe this kind of an experiment. So here you only need either a manila paper or you need a wooden splint. Having now identifying those materials that you are using, what is the procedure being followed here? So you slide a manila paper or a wooden splint into the region. Then from there, you remove it quickly before it catches the fire. What will happen? The inner part remain unburnt. So you will be having a Bunsen burner, and then when we have this is an aluminous flame, so you will be having a matchstick. So you insert, you slide in a matchstick or a manila paper, and then you remove it quickly before it catches the fire. Then what will happen here? The inner part remain unburnt. So if you are using a matchstick or you are using a wooden splint, you slide into the region, so you realize that it will repand this region here, and then it will repand the other region. Then there is the inner part here, which remains unburnt. That shows that the inner part contains unburnt carbon particles or is unsuitable for heating purposes. So that is how you can describe an experiment showing that that region is unsuitable for heating. So I repeat that you slide a manila paper or a wooden splint into the region and remove it quickly before it catches the fire. The inner part remain unburnt. So that inner part remaining unburnt shows that that region contains or is unsuitable for heating purposes. That is question number part B. C. Describe an experiment. Describe an experiment. Describe an experiment to show that the innermost part of the flame contains unburnt carbon gases. So it is the same region here that you describe an experiment to show that the innermost part of the flame contains unburnt carbon gases. So as I've said in part 1, you need in this case identifying the apparatus or the materials that you are using. So in this case here, we are not using a manila paper, we are not using a magic stick, we are not using a wooden spoon. Here we need something that will pick the gas particles from that region. So if we need something that will pick the gas particles from the region, and if that one now will be lit at the opposite end, it will produce a very small flame showing that the region contains unburnt, it contains unburnt carbon particles. So in that case here, you need something like a glass rod tube. So this one here is a glass rod tube. The glass rod tube, it can pick the gas particles from this region here. So if the gas particles can be picked from the innermost region here, and if lit at the opposite end or ignite at the opposite end here, it will produce a small flame indicating that the region contains unburnt carbon particles. So that is how you can identify the materials that you are using. In this case here, we identify an apparatus that we use. In this case here, you are using a glass rod tube. This is a tube that is able to pick the gas particles from that region. So if you lit that one at the opposite end, it will produce a small flame indicating that the region contains unburnt carbon particles. So in this case here, you say that insert a glass rod tube into the region. It will pick the gas particles from the region, lit or ignite it at the opposite end. It produces a small flame indicating that the region contains unburnt carbon particles. Very, very important. Question C. How is the luminosity or the brightness of a Bunsen burner flame can be increased? How can you increase the luminosity or the brightness of a Bunsen burner? So what you need to understand here, from the word luminosity, this term luminosity, it means that it is a luminous. It is the type of a flame here we have here. It is a luminous flame. From this word luminosity, how is the luminosity? How is the brightness of the flame can be increased? So I said that we have two types of the flame. That is the luminous flame and the non-luminous flame. The luminous flame is normally produced when the air hole is fully closed. The non-luminous flame is produced when the air holes are fully open. So from here, we are talking about the word luminosity, the word luminous. It means now that this type of a flame we have here, it is luminous. So the brightness when you close the air holes, the size of the flame will be increased. Therefore, there will be a lot of light. You will be increase the lightness. So from the word luminosity and the brightness here, the luminosity or the brightness of the flame is simply increased by closing the air hole. How is the hotness? Another question. How is the hotness of a Bunsen burner flame can be increased? How do you increase the hotness of a Bunsen burner flame? Of the two flames, that is luminous and non-luminous, there is the one which is used for heating purposes, and that is the non-luminous flame. Why is it used for heating purposes? It is used for heating purposes because it is very hot. And how is this hotness of a Bunsen flame can simply increased? They normally increased by it is normally increased by opening the air hole. So when the air holes are fully opened, the type of the flame which is produced is a non-luminous flame, which is very hot. So in this question here is that explain how the hotness of a Bunsen flame can be increased. The hotness of a Bunsen flame can be increased by fully opening the air hole. Now, therefore, another question here that you name the flame represented in the figure. So the name of the flame represented in this figure, as you can see, it has only 3 regions. And these 3 regions here, it indicates that the type of the flame we have, it is a non-luminous flame. So if it has 4 regions, then it means that that one is a non-luminous flame. So here we can simply say that is this type of the flame we have here, it is a non-luminous flame. Because you cannot be asked to give the reasons here, it has only 3 regions. So we don't require you to give reasons why you can identify this one as an non-luminous flame. Another question that you were to name another type of a flame produced by Bunsen burner. So what is the other type of the flame produced by Bunsen burner? The other type of a flame produced by Bunsen burner simply it is a luminous flame. So you have to identify this one from very well. So if you fail to identify this one, or if you identify this one wrongly as a luminous flame, then the other type of the flame you will also get it wrong. So make sure that you have to identify the diagram. What is the type of the diagram? For you now to name the other type of the flame. So from here, this one here indicated as a non-luminous flame. So the other type of the flame is simply luminous flame. Another question, you were to give 4 differences between the flames you have named. So we have named the non-luminous flame, we have named the non-luminous flame, we have named the non-luminous flame, then we have the luminous flame. So give 4 differences between the luminous and non-luminous flame. So in most cases here, when answering this question, you either use a conjunction or you can use a table. But the advice people or students in most cases use a table, give very short and precise answers here. So if you can use a conjunction, make sure you use the conjunctions very well. That is if you are good in English, you can use conjunctions. So when answering this question now, the differences between the flames, in most cases, I advise you use a table. So you use a table, have one side, you indicate it as an luminous flame, on the other side indicate luminous flame, and then now you will be able to give the differences. So under the non-luminous flame, the non-luminous flame is very hot. The non-luminous flame is very hot. On the other side of the luminous flame is fairly hot. The answers must correct matched for one to score. So you have to match it very well. So don't just say in a luminous flame is very hot. Then on the other side here you say that this one it has 4 regions. So they have been wrongly matched. So for you to score the marks here, make sure that the answers must be correctly matched. So you say luminous flame, very hot, non-luminous flame, very hot. Correct. The luminous flame, the non-luminous flame, this one here, in terms of colors now, it is blue in color, and the luminous flame is yellow. The non-luminous flame, the non-luminous flame does not produce soot. So while the non-luminous flame does not produce soot, the luminous flame